I'm Jim Collison, and live from the Gallup studios here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Theme Thursday, Season 4, recorded on July 5th, 2018. Theme Thursday is a Gallup webcast series that dives deep into the Clifton Strengths themes, one theme at a time. Today's is discipline. If you have questions, comments, or contributions during this webcast, we do have a live chat room that's available for you right below the main video window. Just look down there on the video if you're on the live page. It's available for you, bottom left-hand corner. Hit the login button, choose the guest account, take out the name and number in there, put your own name in so we know who you are. Make up another name if you want, but put your name in there, and that way we know how to reference you. Click the login button, and we'd love to have your questions live. Very important for the post show, by the way. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. If you're listening to the recorded version or have questions about anything, you can send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. There's also a contact form right there on the live page. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center, just GallupStrengthsFinder.com for all your Clifton Strengths coaching resources and training needs. You can also catch the video and downloadable audio for offline listening. We call that podcasting, by the way. Podcast app now available both on Android and iPhone, although it's available on the iPhone first, so I should have said the other way. iPhone and Android now available for you. You can listen on the go, on a train, in a plane, in a car, all those great things. We've got all the resources available for you to be able to do that on our coaches blog. It's over at coaching.gallup.com. And if you're in those apps, rate, review, subscribe, do whatever you need to do. If you're in iTunes watching us, you can subscribe right there and get notified every time we go live or every time we post a edited version of this. And if you're on Spreaker, you can follow us, and that will send you an email as well whenever we go live. Micah Librant is our host today. She works as a workplace consultant here at Gallup. And Micah, always great to have you back on this post-holiday edition of Theme Thursday. Welcome back.
Thanks. Takes a little discipline to show up the morning after fireworks, but I'm happy to be here.
Fireworks and other things. Hey, I forgot to mention this in the last Theme Thursday, but for our live listeners, for those folks coming to the summit, we have stickers. We have badges for you. If you're a theme, we're only saying this verbally on the podcasts. We're only saying this, so you only know to ask. You have to ask Micah and I at the summit. You got to find us and ask us. So we'll be loaded up. And we have a limited number of badges, so the earlier that you do that, the better. And we'll be handing out those badges to Theme Thursday listeners who are at the summit. You're not going to want to miss it. So we have those available for you as well. Track us down when you are at the summit. By the way, almost full. So if you haven't decided to come to the summit yet, you might want to. If it's past the summit of 2018, chances are you can register for the 2019 summit already.
And it was awesome.
It was great. That summit. Time we got together and did that thing.
Mind blown. And that time
incredible.
You said that, still laughing.
It was amazing. It was amazing. Well, speaking of amazing, let's talk about discipline. Micah, I have my Theme Insight cards ready today. I brought them up to the
all
studio.
about the tools. I have my Clifton Strengths resource guide, my favorite thing in the world. So let's talk about discipline. It's right here.
Yeah.
Short definition from the resource guide. People exceptionally talented in the discipline theme enjoy routine and structure. Their world is best described by the order they create. This is an executing theme. It's a beautiful theme. It is one that I do not personally have, but that I am a big fan of. When I think about discipline, it is that idea of order and structure, detail-oriented. I think folks with discipline are architects of structure in many ways. It's not just that they like to follow the rules that are set in front of them. It's that they think in a way that sort of creates rules. This is ideation communication. Didn't plan on this picture popping into my mind, but Mickey Mouse Clubhouse has a train that lays tracks in front of itself as it goes. And you can Google this and find it. It's a thing. And I think about discipline that way sometimes. It's not just that I'm going to follow the tracks already. It's that any move I make is going to have train tracks with it. It's going to have structure with it. They're quite planned. They enjoy the planning. I think about people with high discipline being exact and exacting. And Jim, I got to tell you, I was listening to season 1 of Discipline that you and Kurt did with Ryan Wolf on Monday. because I did my homework ahead of time this week. And it is one of your best episodes. I listened all the way through and it just got better and better and better. And I think a lot of times our best stuff in our podcast is within the first, 18 minutes or so, but this just got better and better. So if you haven't listened to season 1, I would also encourage you to go back to it. If you just want a good sort of basic definition of what is the theme, what does it look like in a person? That's really what season 1 really is about. I recommend Discipline.
It was a fun one because Ryan Wolf is my fitness trainer here
Yeah.
at Gallup. And so we got some good, it's always fun to have the guests on when I know them really well, because the right questions to kind of ask. So if you're new to Theme Thursday, we actually have 3 seasons available for you, right? So Micah, the first season, Learning to Love, all themes. Second season, focus on theme dynamics. And the third season, a focus on strengths-based leadership. So if you haven't checked those out, if you're new to this and you're like, oh, I had no idea, you can binge all weekend or all week on these.
And if you didn't know, finding out that you can binge on something is like realizing there's another Oreo still in the package.
It's pretty great. It is. That's a great example. Funny that during Discipline, I would have to bring up the show notes that I forgot to bring up during the pre-show stuff. So they're up now. When you think of the best of you with Discipline, what is that?
I think the value that people bring when they're really on their game with Discipline, it's bringing order and stability to chaos or to mess. Not just order and stability where there already is some, but think about somebody who can say, let's calm the seas, let's get this in line, let's move forward in a way that feels like there's some stability and some predictability to it. I think it's also about enhancing whatever current reality you're in by sorting it into a predictable order. Thoughtfully moving through tasks in a way that maximizes effort. So I think there's an element of efficiency that is a byproduct of discipline. Discipline doesn't hunger for efficiency necessarily, like maybe a ranger or harmony or maximizer might. But what it hungers for is the structure. And I think when you've got that structure, you've got a cleanliness, you've got an order, you've got a ability to breathe even better. And I think that the result of that can be maximizing the effort of yourself and of other people.
We often spend time on those stand-up exercises when we think about, when people are kind of introducing strengths to new groups, we have these very kind of quick stand-up and some examples. I think sometimes, Micah, that limits our understanding because we boil down a theme to 1 or 2 words.
Right.
And Discipline is so much richer than just doing the same thing or whatever theme, whatever 1 or 2 words you have in your head when you think of discipline. Micah, when we think about being able to do more, or what people who have high discipline should volunteer for or do more of, what else do we say?
Hey, I think get close to the measure of success for every team that you're on. So that might mean asking, hey, where is it that we hope to go? Even if it seems like no one else is asking that, or even if it seems like you're not a metrics-driven team, I think you can be a bit of a safari guide for others by moving people from where we are right now to where we want to be and doing that through a plan. That's a unique piece to discipline. A plan for someone like you with high discipline really is that vehicle. It's how you get from place to place as you do it through a plan. You know that a plan has a start, a middle, and an end, and that there are tools available at your disposal. It's probably the best tool for you to make sense of your own life and your own chaos and your own goals. But think about it also as an opportunity for you to really raise your hand and offer your best to other people. I also think break big projects into manageable plans. In this week's Mastery Monday, Al Winsman talks about discipline as having really 2 different kinds of order. It could be one or the other. It could be both for you, and probably depends a lot on your other themes. But he talks about spatial discipline and thought process discipline. And that spatial discipline might be what we think of in that activity you're referring to, Jim, of like, how organized is your closet? That also could come from a couple other themes. Spatial discipline is I want to sort things. I want to feel the physical order around me. Thought process discipline might be those people that you've come across who you think if you could just get a view of their brain, it would be made through like very clean Excel documents, the ability to sort and think in an orderly structure. I think all of that, no matter which side of that you lean more heavily toward, that can break something complicated down into something trackable. And that sounds like a similar theme. It sounds a lot like achiever. Achiever is about what do I complete in order to get to where I want to go. Discipline, I think what has different with that, still an executing theme, is the completion or the like you hit a milestone piece isn't the driver. It's the fact that you're moving through the process and you're doing it in a way that is structured and that makes sense. And as somebody who's often felt overwhelmed, even by my own themes, I feel like I hunger for that, and I don't quite naturally know how to create it. So it's sorting, it's structuring, it's building, it's planning, and it's doing it before you even feel like it's needed. You're just doing it so naturally, as opposed to people like me without discipline, where we might hit this overwhelmed state and then realize, okay, at this point, I need to create some order and some structure. So raise your hand for the opportunity to do that for yourself, but also to think about that as the best appetizer you can bring to the party is some order and structure for others.
In the pre-show, we were talking discipline's 30 for me, so down a ways, and I actually crave it now as an adult. I think when I was younger, I struggled with it. I envied it a little bit. I always wanted it. I have to fake it for me. I have to use an achiever, arranger combo, and then get some help. I have to get an assist to make it work for me. That's kind of the way it works. I have learned, and so for folks, and my wife has it very high in her top 5, and so I've learned to appreciate it. At times it feels stifling for me just because I want to do something different. But there are environments that we can kind of create to help people high with this. Micah, what kind of environments could we create?
I think if you've got high discipline, ask for rules, ask for metrics, ask for clear understanding of what the best outcome should be, and ask for that in a way that isn't left up to interpretation. So really ask for what are the black and white evidence of whether or not we're on track. I also think overt permission or agreement to be the person who sorts and organizes. You can run into trouble if everybody feels like they're sorting and organizing, but you're the one who really probably should be. So I think an agreement that, hey, we're going to leave the plan of the menu up to you, and we're going to let somebody else do a little bit, something different, just as an example. But make sure that we understand who's doing what real clearly.
Yeah, and I think there's defined swim lanes in this idea of, right, those environments of setting up the best possible swim lane for someone to say, hey, in this environment with these themes or this theme, how do we really get the most efficient or most efficiency out of someone? What else? What can we worry less about with discipline? If I have this high, what should I worry less about?
Well, the theme that occurs the least frequently with discipline is ideation. And I don't think that's, I don't think it's just a statistics. I think there's something to be learned there. Ideation is more about sort of an openness to whatever your brain throws at you. And discipline instead is having your brain be in charge of it before it gets anything thrown at it. So I would also say, even if that wasn't the case, that piece of which occurs at least frequently, worry less about doing things differently for the sake of doing things creatively. You really should pay attention to improvement, pay attention to measuring improvement, but don't throw your hat into the ring when it comes to just being different or just being bold or just being creative. I also think, and this, depending on your other themes, could be a real challenge for people, but in many cases, your discipline can be a benefit to other people if you can separate it from ownership. So the idea that you've got a great appetizer to offer is my metaphor today because we had a holiday party at our house, but a great gift to offer, a great tool to offer to others, the way that you can use discipline in more of a leadership capacity, and that idea of helping other people sort, helping other people come up with a plan. You might have to do some work to decouple that order and structure and ownership of the outcome. And I think that just comes primarily from very clear communication, being able to say, I'm going to help you come up with a plan, and then it's going to be yours to execute. Or I'm going to give you a couple ideas of how you could be a little bit more structured, a little bit more tidy, getting to where you want to go. And then I'm going to let you choose which ideas are best for you. So saying that out front, because if you don't, I think sometimes you raising your hand and saying, hey, how about if we do it this way, ends up just by default with you leading the charge on everything.
Carmela asked a great question in the chat room that relates to this idea of what environments can I set up and what can I worry less about. She says, working with someone with discipline in their top 5, but dealing with retirement. So their routines/processes are gone, right? They're feeling lost without their process. So what works with establishing new processes, Micah, as we think about changing, not just retirement, but changing of environments when folks with high discipline make those changes? What do you think? What kind of things can we advise them on?
So I'm working right now on a tech project where we're talking about transition states. We're talking about nobody is ever at an end point when we think about this. You're always in between one state and the next state. And that's where the richest content lives. So I think about that, especially for people going through any transition, but especially for people with discipline. I doubt that they feel like all of a sudden it's a clean slate and there are no routines and processes. Because chances are, if somebody with discipline is thinking about the future, what they're seeing and what they're thinking about are what structure is going to be there. How is this going to be a routine? Talk about routine with them. Help them say, what are you going to do every day? Let's take retirement as a very big and important change. Just as an example, let's say for 50 years you've been working in a 9 to 5, and the next Monday you're just not working. I think you need to anticipate that by think about what are the most important things you accomplish in a day. What are the most important things you do before noon? How is the best way for you to do that? And it does sound a little bit muddy where we're talking about discipline with just about any other executing theme when you think about it that way, but that's helpful. What discipline needs is to feel like it's got a target to move toward, and then the ability to have some autonomy around the plan to get you to that target. So help them name what they're noticing, help them name what needs to be done, and help them see that there's always going to be something that needs to be done.
Yeah. I get excited actually when I think of that environment, because the arranger activator in me, I'm like, oh, something new, like new things, new adventures to go on. And so actually maybe finding a partner like that in that transition to say, I know things were this way, but getting someone else to help think outside of what it had been. I do agree with you, Micah. I doubt they come to this and it's a blank piece of paper. Oftentimes they may have thought out this or thought it through. Maybe even unusual that they haven't thought through the retirement piece already and have planned some things. Now there's other themes that do that. So everybody's different along those lines.
Now, the interesting thing also might be if you're a thought process discipline person instead of a spatial discipline person, I think that it crosses over into that strategic thinking category quite a bit. So it's not just give them 100 things that they should accomplish in retirement. It might be more about, what kind of mess do other people have that you can be needed for? What sort of things can we sort out? When I was moving, not retiring, but when I made my first really big move, a good friend of mine sat down and gave me a list of things that I needed to find in the new place. And it was, you need to find the best mechanic. I need you to try out a couple different places to get your oil changed and find the best mechanic. Go to a couple different grocery stores and find the one that has the freshest produce. And I think you could follow those well-being areas if you're trying to help somebody with discipline through a big change like that. Think about, how is your purpose? We use the word purpose interchangeably with career. How are you going to be thriving there? What are we doing physically? What are you doing with your finances? What are you doing with your community and socially? Because I think that gives you some targets that we know are important things to focus on. So if you're struggling a little bit even with where to focus, but then within those 5 areas of well-being, really thinking about what's the plan? How are we going to be in charge of moving toward this and moving through it in a way that's super structured, a way that's clean, a way that you can know you're making some progress toward.
All right, Mike, it's time for you to coach me. It's that segment of the show. In this case, my significant other my best partner has high discipline. What can I expect when in working with her? What can I expect? What should I look for?
Maybe I should just ask you, but here we go. When you're working with people with high discipline, look for practical relationships with what is. It's more about dealing with what's in front of you than imagining what if. I wasn't thinking about you and Sarah when I wrote this, but that might be just something you need to hear 12 times, Jim. It is more about how do we understand the moving pieces in front of us instead of dreaming about what they could be. Now, you could have other themes that push you into some sort of other sort of aim higher or be more creative aspect, but discipline by itself is about what's in the room and how do I deal with it. Also, I think expect a value of what they've promised. They're always in that transition state on a way to a goal. So shifting goals or shifting priorities on them needs to be overt. It needs to be obvious, because somebody with high discipline is always in pursuit of something. So if you're going to change, I think you need to tell them cleanly, black and white, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and have some agreement that maybe we can let some of those previous plans go.
Wynn says in the chat room, did any of you have high discipline love getting your school notebook ready before the school year started? And that's kind of that. Actually, Sarah does that all the time as she's going into a new job or a new process. She is a notebook person, and she has lots of, she wants to pull those things together. And I have kind of learned to, when we think about expectations, for me, I was always like, that's a huge waste of time. Like, because for me, I'm like, let's just go. Let's go and do. We'll figure it out as we go. And she wants to have the most preparation in advance. Micah, this is I think a more important question for me. How do I recognize that? Like, how do I make sure that's a big deal? Because I think that is a big deal for folks with high discipline. How do I recognize it?
I think recognize the safety or the order that they've created for other people. Recognize them with data, recognize them with statistics to back up why you believe something is positive. Don't just walk in and say, hey, that was great. If you could walk in and say, because of your approach, we achieved XYZ. Again, it comes back to that practical nature of discipline, where they're probably not going to hear a little bit more of the flowery charisma and charm of recognition. What they're really going to listen for and hear for is the cause and effect relationship. You created this, that created something wonderful.
Kelly says, yes, I'm going to have a new notebook just for the summit. At the summit, I won't have a notebook. That's just not the way I roll. I'm going to be there available just and be able to move at any moment. But I appreciate that. What about how do we stretch someone high in discipline?
Yeah, ask for the most important goals that they're facing, and then ask how we can stretch them in meaningful and achievable ways. So again, realizing that the plan aspect or the pursuit of a goal is going to be pretty important, the structure that surrounds that. So involve them in their own stretching. Tap into their process for achieving things to help them achieve what's important to them personally. Ask them what they could do more efficiently, or even times of the day when they feel like they're more disciplined than others, and help them think about how do I not just use discipline to bring structure to chaos? How do I not just use discipline to organize my day, but how do I use it sort of to aim that laser beam of talent into the mirror and think about how I could be even more efficient, even more structured, even more predictable and planned and stable.
So again, time for you to coach me. We have a wedding coming up in 8 days. My disciplined partner is struggling a little bit. It's all these details have to come together. Best ways to partner, Micah?
I'm going to read you what I wrote in my show notes, then we're going to talk. But originally I said, offer metrics when you have them and create them when you don't. There's always something that you can rate, rank, or sort. And that makes chaos more plannable. And that's what discipline's really looking for. I think it's also really easy for oftentimes discipline to happen so obvious to that person and for it not to be obvious to other people, for the structure to seem so clean, like, can't you just see that this widget needs to go in that hole? And can't everybody else do that? But discipline's a pretty rare theme. I think it's in sort of it's definitely in our bottom 10 worldwide. And when you think about how frequently it shows up in people's dominant themes. And so I think it's also a benefit just to be a thought partner to the executing theme. So discipline is, how do I move toward a goal? It's not just how do I think in a really clean manner. It's not just how do I sort of look for evidence or proof. So if you could be a great think partner to help somebody with discipline get what they need to get done, it might just mean, hey, tell me what are all the most important moving parts right now. Let me just absorb that so that you can get it out of your brain. And then I'll help you sort to, out of all these moving parts, here's what we need a separate plan for. And then I'm going to get out of your way and let you be the person who plans and delegates and tells me where to go and whether to wear a tie or not to the wedding. But I think in many cases, you can be a great partner by knowing what language somebody speaks and what language you speak, and just saying, I'm going to be here to help you think for 10 minutes. I want you to spit everything out that feels like it's sort of jumbling up your brain. And then we're going to sort through it together. And then I'm going to help you just go on your way with what else you need. So it's an idea of when discipline, as among other themes, just gets overwhelmed. How do you clean it out a little bit so that it can run a little bit better?
Yeah, well, those emotional aspects of what's, in this kind of scenario, there's emotional aspects that play into this, right? It can't always be just clean and easy. I have discipline, therefore it will be this way, because not everybody moves in those same directions. It's a very frustrating. I see this all the time. Very frustrating for folks because it's like, I made these plans and and I am going to execute them and get them done. And so it is it's a topsy-turvy sometimes. You really got to think through it. We're gonna, you and I in the pre-show we're talking a little bit about that. I think I'm gonna take. Chris had said, what's your wedding metrics going to be in this, right? And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. I'm gonna try and get out with her on Friday night to just sit down and say, okay, tell me what you're worried about the most and which pieces do we need to kind of pay attention to. Maybe we'll talk about this a little bit in the challenge that's coming up here. But to be that, because I have a lot of adaptability, I have a lot of arranger, I have a lot of activator. I can do those things very, very well for her, which she may struggle with. But I think she needs to be heard a little bit on this, on the discipline side, to kind of work through those pieces. Let's think about, I think we're at that point, aren't we? Think about the challenge. So we've got some challenges that we do weekly. We like to take them to our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/called-to-coach. Many of you have joined us in that group right from the webcast. So thanks for coming over. Micah has an Instagram account that if you want to do it that way, lots of folks, by the way, Instagram just passed 1 billion users. I don't know if you knew that, Micah, but
clearly we need to work harder on getting a little more following Strengths Talk.
1 billion people out there at Strengths Talk, as Micah just mentioned. Let's talk about these challenges for those who have discipline in their top 5. What kind of challenges do we have for them?
Top 5, top 10. If it's a dominant theme for you, this is how you invest in it. Why don't you do it on purpose this week? We've got 3 options. Number 1, develop your trusted set of routines for when flexibility or change is required. I did see somebody on social this week who said they have developed discipline and adaptability in their top 5, which sounds gorgeous. But if you've got discipline that needs a little bit more classic permission in order to shift, think about a 3-step response system. It might be something like, I need to know the key players, I need to know the goal, I need to know the timeline, or I need to sit alone and think, I need to drink a margarita, I need to write down a plan. If you can think about how do you best flex when flex is needed, and commit to really just a 3-step response. Number 2, every day for the next week, I want you to add something at the top of your calendar. It's called your big 3. So write down the 3 most important priorities you accomplish that day. Try it for a week. You might even try migrating priorities to the next day if you don't get there. But I think it's going to help you focus that structure and that order towards something. And number 3, name a time your discipline created excellence for someone else. This is starting to explore that idea of leadership. So not just how does it work for you, but how can it be a good servant of others? So think about a really important story. That's going to enable you in the future to really kind of fight for the utility of discipline, or to use it as an opportunity to say, hey, I'm going to approach things a little bit differently, and it can be good for all of us because this is the effect it has. So those 3 are, let me just summarize them really fast. Number 1, develop a 3-step response system for change. Number 2, add your big 3 priorities to each day for a week. And number 3, tell a story about a time that discipline was great for others.
I'm going to get a chance to practice these this week, the lesser theme challenge. So as we think about those who have it at 30 or below, what can we do, Micah?
Yeah, if it's a lesser theme and it's getting in your way, here's ways that you might want to just be aware of it. If you lean into order and chaos through relationship building, you might want to just find an accountability partner who keeps you honest when you're pursuing your goals. Host a goal meeting date where you both talk about where you want to go and what you're currently doing. That we can all get to where discipline gets to through our own themes, but I think it might be a little bit more of a purposeful nudge that it takes for others. So it's just finding a partner. By the way, thanks to Maureen for being my partner this week. We've been emailing back and forth, holding each other accountable on a daily basis. It makes a big difference. Number 2, name a habit that you've been meaning to acquire. Not something you want to kick. This isn't like I want to, stop smoking or something, but name a habit that your life would be a little bit better if you had. And take one small step toward this habit every single day at the same time of the day for 1 week. Make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Get yourself a Fitbit, set some steps.
It could be steps. That's right.
Could be. By the way, I love that Fitbit, and I come to it and then I leave it, and I come to it and I leave it, which shows my lack of discipline. But it is, Micah, I so desperately want it. Sometimes I have serious theme envy. I think I might have said this even in season 1 with Ryan. I have serious theme envy for discipline. It's one of those I just wish I had. I so desperately want it. So great that I got a partner, right, who has it. By the way, her discipline is 1, her adaptability is 5. So we have one of those.
So cool.
Yeah, no.
What does it look like? Because I've got an idea of what that would look like, but how would you describe that?
I'm not saying she doesn't live frustrated sometimes when things aren't, she's got some patterns in place. But heck, being married to me for 30 years is probably what that looks like, in putting up with the constant movement and shifting and changing. But she definitely, for her, it may be that more spatial discipline that we were talking about, where her world needs an order. And the physical things around her need order. I just think this weekend I came in and the kitchen was different. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is, in her and my daughter had completely changed things to make it more efficient, right? To make it more, for her, ordered. And that was a good moment for her. And yet it doesn't always have to be that way. There's often times we're doing things, we've had plans and things have to change. She can adapt to those. Not saying it's always easy, but she does adapt pretty well. So she has that combo, discipline, adaptability.
I think a lot of this, why it seems strange for us, is our misunderstanding of adaptability as just being like hippie, directionless. Adaptability is about meeting people where they are, dropping everything to be there for them, right? And being better when you're thrown off guard. And it's being super, super present and super in the moment. So I wonder if discipline plus adaptability means I can meet you where you are. You're not going to throw me off, because I have a very clean filing system of what I can offer you and how I can offer it to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Oftentimes, she'll have her game plan set, the way she wants to do things. Or the way she responds to things is very consistent, right? Just her thought process and that. And yet raising 5 kids that are all very, very different, it all requires, this ability to move or help others move. She was really good with the teens in their teen years, with our kids in their teen years. And I think that required a lot of adaptability, to be able to say, hey, what can I do to help you through this time? Because they were all different. I don't know why that is. I don't know why they all have to be different.
Why do they all have to be different?
Maybe
somebody with discipline doesn't see all those differences. Maybe you see an ability to serve through just a couple different iterations that might have to be configured a little bit differently. Anyway, that's discipline. I love it. I'm jealous that you were able to acquire it through marriage, because I wish I had some. But I have now posted our challenge to Instagram. If you can see that, it's at Strengths Talk. The way you do this is you just swipe through and you see the next challenge. So let us know how it goes. It's a beautiful theme, really, to sort of wrap up discipline. Thank you for loaning it to the world if you have it, because it's rare and it's beautiful. It's about creating, I think, some space, some order, some structure, it's calming the storm into an achievable place for people. So thanks to all of you who have it.
Right from the theme insight cards that I have now up here. Discipline. I meet deadlines because it makes me feel good. Responsibility. I meet deadlines because it makes others respect me. So we'll have some more conversations in the post show. Really important that you can only get the post show if you come out live. And so you want to join us. If you can join us on Thursdays, You can get a complete list of all the webcasts that we do. If you're not doing this, by the way, check in on our Eventbrite page, gallup.eventbrite.com. Join us live. Some 36 right now. I saw as high as 40 during this webcast, and a very vibrant chat room today. So we thank you guys for doing that. If you are listening live, stay around. We'll do a little post show here. We'll remind everyone to take full advantages of all the resources we have available. And when I say resources, I mean like these theme insight cards available for you at the Gallup Strength Center, just gallupstrengthcenter.com. Send us your questions or comments if you'd like to be a guest blogger. We are, maybe some of you write. I don't know why you would, but some of you do. No, I'm just kidding. And if you've got something that you want to say, 400 to 600 words, we may be interested and might be able to use it on our coach's blog. Send us an email, coaching@gallup.com, put guest blogger in the subject line. We'll get that over to Micah and we'll see what we can do. You can also catch the recorded audio and video of this program as well as all the past ones. Those are available for you on our social resources page. Go out to our website again, coaching.gallup.com. Click on resources. If you're listening in real time, we're doing a bunch of changes to the coach's blog right now. Our interns are working on those, and they've had a fun summer getting that done. You may see some changes over the next couple of weeks. If you haven't visited the coach's blog, it may be completely new. So head out there, coaching.gallup.com. If you're interested in becoming a Gallup certified strengths coach, you can see a list of all our courses that lead to that, courses.gallup.com. If you're coming to the summit, there's really not much time. We have just a couple of weeks, but if you're coming, you can get 15% off any of our courses that are offered during the summit. Still available. Micah, I think we have almost 500 people coming for some
courses?
kind of course. Yeah.
I'm one of them. I get to be a student after this.
It's going to be pretty great. We're going to have a lot of stuff going on. So if you're coming into town for that, we'll say welcome to you. I think the meetup starts Sunday night. And so we'll look forward to seeing you while you're here. If you missed the summit, sign up for the summit 2019 or 2020, whatever. CliftonStrengthsSummit.com. It would be the place to go to see what we're doing. Don't forget to join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/call2coach. Many of you have come in from Theme Thursday, and so I appreciate that. Get involved in the dialogue, have a conversation. We appreciate it. Appreciate you being out there. If this is the first time you've come and you've seen this, welcome. We have a bunch of these available for you. Well, thank you for listening today. We'll go into the post show, and with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.